So guys, finally a Fulani leader has come out to talk on armed Fulani headers who have been going about by Nigerians. We all know that at the peak of all these things that were happening, people were wondering, why are the northerners not speaking up? I mean, northern leaders coming out to speak, you hardly see any of that. And now one of their leaders is here to speak on why the buying has been happening. He has said his people are not being carried along. Some state governors set up security outfits that annoys their people, and a whole lot that he said in this video. I want you to take your time, watch this video to the end, and hear for yourself what this man has got to say as regards to you know what has been happening in the country, all the buying of Nigerians. Do you know how many communities that have been sacked? But he's saying that no community has been sacked. Even the governor came out to say 64 communities have been sacked in Plateau State. But he's saying that none of those is happening, and we have seen IDP camps across Nigeria just because of these Fulani headers. Anyway, I'm going to allow you to take a look at what this their leader has got to say and how he has gone ahead to defend the Fulani community and all what they've been doing against the Nigerian people. Just take your time, watch this video, and let me know your honest reaction in the comment section below. Now take a look.
You see, when you deny people citizenship rights by alluding that they are foreigners, then you deny them all the rights, you deny them inclusivity in governance, you refuse to give them social justice. So these narratives conveniently serve those that are promoting this conflict for the last 26 years. I think it's time we address that, because I can actually see how a foreign header can move either from Cameroon or Niger or Mali to be right at the north central of Nigeria. You see, this issue of headers and armed headers is also a narrative. Headers are not armed, but you have armed bandits and lawless criminals in our forests. All these are lumped to be called armed headers. We need to separate them. We need to know that the criminals are there in our forests and deal with the criminals. And the first line of victims of those criminals are the headers. We have lost so many headers. We have lost thousands of cattle in the hands of these criminals. But at the same time, we have been accused as the criminals.
But
so
Mr.
the challenge
Mr.
is now, even the institutions, yes.
Mr. Hassan, if you're listening to the entire narrative, particularly the ones coming from those affected in these states, Benue now, for instance, the governor has said that these are Fulani from outside the country, because the type of Fulani that they speak, or is it the language that they speak, is alien to that which is indigenous to Nigeria. So it may not be an entire labeling of the Fulani of the Nigerian extraction. What do you say to that?
I think he is the chief security officer of the state. Maybe security information at his domain. He can give him such information. He can shed more light on this. But we that are working with communities in rural areas, I want to state categorically, emphatically, we don't have foreign headers in north central Nigeria and in Nigeria entirely. Where you have some elements of foreign headers is along the border communities, areas of Jigawa, Kebbi, part of Maiduguri, and some part of Adamawa State. What you have bandits. And bandits can come from anywhere. Those bandits that are armed cannot be classified as headers because they are not herding cattle. If you see bandits with cattle, probably are cattle stolen from the headers, the indigenous headers we have in the communities. And let me tell you something. All headers, where they are localized, they speak the indigenous languages. That's why we're calling for national integration of the headers, community integration of the headers, so that you know the headers in your domain. And we cannot pretend that headers are aliens to any of the communities, particularly in the north central Nigeria.
Are you saying that headers are not responsible for some of the atrocities we see in the country? Are you exonerating headers in that sense? Are you saying you don't have militia headers or criminal elements within the header rank and file? Because that because whether you speak to people, we've spoken to literally everybody, from Benue to Plateau to where all of this happens. And there's a central thing. herders, whether there's an infiltration of bandits in between. So are you exonerating herders in that sense? Because we see herders carrying guns and all of that.
We need to contextualize it.
Yes.
Most of the pictures you see of herders carrying guns are not even from Nigeria. But I'm telling you, the herders that we are working with in our organization, they don't carry weapons. I've been saying this consistently. But you have criminal elements that have taken over our rural areas. The herders are the first line of victims of those criminals. They rustle their cattle, they kidnap them for ransom. The reports are there with the security agencies, but it's always convenient for security agencies to blame foreign herders so that there won't be deep conversation on this issue so that we can address the root causes. That's why we're insisting that, look, if you say foreign herders, parade them. Let's see their nationalities. It's not a question of whether you speak a variant of Fulfulde or not. You see, we have been pretending in this country in the last 26 years.
But
I've been working on these issues.
But Mr. Hassan,
development agencies have been working on these issues, yes.
In Plateau State, those who are affected, in the latest round of killings, point accusing fingers even at, again, Fulani. They say that there was, in fact, a peace accord between them and the Fulani, but the Fulani are known to always breach the peace accord. So these are the concerns. If you go to Edo State, prior to that distressing event, the people in Uromi had complained about how their women were raped on their farms, some were killed on their farms. Again, the same accusing fingers is pointed at Fulani herders. So can you truly exonerate, criminal elements who are perpetrating this and giving the entire ethnic group a bad name?
You see, the context I want us to look at these issues. You see, for Plateau, I grew in the Plateau, I schooled in the Plateau. Today, my generation are the ones in governance on the Plateau. And we know the root causes of this crisis. Even the latest crisis are not supposed to be tagged farmer-herder conflict. How did it start in Bokos? It was a question of theft of motorcycle that led to those crises. So they now interpret any type of conflicts as farmer-herder. If you go on the Plateau now, there is no any crop that is there for herders to trespass. And the question I always ask, have we lost faith in our judicial system? You see, there are attacks and counterattacks. You have attacks that are followed by reprisals. And unfortunately, there is also politicization of the crisis. If you look at down south, what you have displaced bandits from northwest and other jihadist groups that have found it difficult to stay within the northern part of the country, probably because of the ecology. They are looking for thick vegetation. They move towards the south. And most of them now carry cattle, which are even for trading. Those are not herders. And herders that are now rearing their cattle peacefully, they are faced with double jeopardy. If you don't defend yourself, because security is not there to defend you, these criminals will come and rustle the whole of your cattle. For the Plateau, if the governor wants to be sincere, he has grown together with Fulanis, pastoralists, particularly in his local government. This conflict is just recent, and we know the drivers of those conflicts on the Plateau. It's likely political, because there is an agenda to expel the herders on the Plateau. The governor knows this. His godfather in politics, the former governor, Senator Jam, is a driver of that narrative, expelling herders on the Plateau. And they have renewed that call now. Look at the case of the so-called occupied 64 villages. I laughed when I see those stories in the media. Those are IDP camps that government never took care of. Herders were displaced from 43 villages on the Plateau. And they now move into those those wastelands, mine lands, and considered a safe corridor for themselves. I want to be disputed. There is no single council ward on the Plateau that is being taken over by the herders.
Mr.
So we have to be honest if we want to have a solution.
Mr. Alassane, you made strong allegations against the former governor. He's not here to respond, so I'm not going to speak for him, but I'm sure he might be listening and want to answer you. But it's difficult to process to the effect that, given all that is playing out, we have asked you one question that I don't think you've answered. Are you saying, so let me repeat that question again so that I'll put you on record. There are bad and good people everywhere. Are you saying within your rank and file you don't have criminal elements militia elements, whichever word is convenient, that are perpetrating this evil in the name of whatever guise amongst you. Is that what you're saying?
You see, I'm telling you categorically that herders that are peaceful and doing their herding business have no business with this banditry. But you see, when you have state ethnic militia being masqueraded as vigilantes, killing innocent herders, the herders are left with no option than to resort to self-help. Some of these issues you see, the state governors are responsible for it. Instead of you to use conventional security to enforce law and order, you now set on an ethnic army and name it whatever from community security, vigilantes, and they do all manner of injustices to the herders. So I'm telling you, you can quote me anywhere, herders that are peaceful and grazing do not carry arms, are not responsible for these criminalities. But as you know, we have criminals in every ethnic group. Today, can you blame the Kanuris for the atrocities of Boko Haram?
So, Mr. Alexander, so just a moment, we're saying the same thing. So now we're looking, what you're talking about is we're looking for who to blame as the aggressor. What you're saying by extension is the fact that the herders are peaceful until, quote unquote, this government set up whatever vigilante to attack them, and they now attack, or by reprisal they attack them back. So you're saying by essence we have militia herders in that sense to defend the herders who are innocently attacked. Is that what you're saying?
No, you see, don't put words into my... It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you have criminal elements within our rural areas. Some of these criminal elements, you cannot rule out that they are also Fulani criminal elements, because arrests have shown that some of them are Fulanis. But does that translate? Herding is an occupation, it's an economy. But when you criminalize the economy, automatically you are criminalizing the entire ethnic group, which is wrong. You see, we have criminals, we have elements in the southeast, IPOP, killing people, burning economic infrastructure. You do not target Igbo criminals. Treat criminals as criminals. Treat bandits as bandits. Address them. In fact, the herders can be even a solution to this conflict because they are the first line of victims.
So, Mr. Al-Hassan, does the Miyetti Allah Kautal Hore Fulani Social Cultural Association, does it have a register of all members of its organization throughout the country? Because we see herders, even in our own community here, driving their cattle, even on roads. That's another conversation for another day. But we see them all over the country. So do you have a register of all members of your organization? That's on the one hand. So if you're saying that there are credible Fulani who ply their business throughout the country, should we begin to see more statements condemning attacks allegedly perpetrated by armed Fulani herders?
I want to correct that narrative. Don't say armed Fulani herders, because only the security agencies can categorically say that. You have armed bandits. You don't know, you cannot specify their ethnicity. You see, our organization have been working on peace buildings with the security agencies since 2014. The records are there. And with our structure, we have register of our members in every community. With the aid of information technology, I can just place a call to our chairman in Oyo State. He will tell me what is going on. But you see, if you are dealing with a demography that is fluid in the rural areas, that is constantly on migration, there are challenges in actually tracking who are responsible for these crimes. But I want to state, our herders, based on the reports we receive daily, they are first line of victims of these criminals. And we have to protect them, the state have to protect them, not to now hang it on their neck. They are not the security agencies to fish out criminals in the rural areas.
But
even those that choose to cooperate, they are being killed daily.
Mr. Al-Hassan, pardon me. On the front page of the papers this morning, the Defense Headquarters is saying foreign herders behind attacks on Benue Plateau communities. And whenever we hear about stories of these killings, we don't hear that Fulani herders killed en masse. What we hear is 50 indigents on the plateau are killed. What we hear is people are killed in Benue, and they're displaced from their communities. We certainly do not hear that Fulani herders of Nigerian extraction have been killed en masse.
So I'm telling you, this has been the narrative right from the colonial period. The Fulani man is always the fall guy in these issues. It all has to do with competition on land resources. But the defense headquarters, they are the chief security. Maybe they have information that they give the public more to shed light on the so-called foreign headers. But I want to state categorically that what we have is armed bandits, criminal elements, jihadist elements infiltrating all over the country and aided and abetted by politicians who find interest in using them depending on the locality. So we must look at this thing within context and analyze it critically. Avoid these simplistic solutions to it. Integrate the headers in your states. Take census of the headers. It's not difficult to identify any intruder. Are we saying we cannot now govern our spaces?
Mr. Al-Hassan, you said something. You said something just now. Politicians who use some of them for their, for their own personal ambitions. Can you please expatiate on that? Because that is also part of the narrative about what is responsible for this.
You see, this narrative of conflict, what I want, especially the media, to help this country, is to look at what are the drivers. Now we're approaching an election period. All of a sudden you have spikes of conflict that are being tagged harder farmer conflict in places like Plateau State, where this is not a cropping season. We are just going into cropping season. At the peak of the dry season, you say there is harder farmer conflict. Where is the trespass? Where is the judicial system? If today I trespass, I'm a header. If I trespass into your land, we have the police, we have the courts, we have the traditional settings. But what you see is just pretentious statements. People wanting to trigger conflicts to control the polity and not allow the citizens to think right, to ask them for accountability in the resources they are collecting in their states.
Well, Mr. Al-Hassan.
Gain political
all right, Mr. Al-Hassan, just a moment as we begin to wind down, because a lot of people find it, because the migration that we're talking about for whatever, for greener pastures, for the cattle in this sense, is done by the herders themselves. And if this conflict has escalated for the number of years you have spoken about, it's difficult to accept that there are no militia elements in that sense. But that is your position. You don't live everywhere. I'm not saying it is or it is not, but it's just difficult to accept because there are killings on all sides. But what I want to ask you is, what is the solution? People have proposed ranching. Are the herders open to ranching in this sense?
You see, with the new Ministry of Livestock Development, that's why we will remain eternally grateful to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president of the country, for having the courage to create a livestock ministry. And that's where the solution is. If you integrate livestock development into the economy, particularly at the state and local government levels, you know the population of herders you are dealing with. You know the carrying capacity of the land. And it's a huge economy that can support livelihood in our rural areas. So with that ministry, we already have a solution in place. All we need is for key stakeholders to key in, give the government support, so that we can have a Marshall Plan for livestock development, where you have Marshall heavy, massive investment in infrastructural development, so that you can settle these herders in ranches, document them, and then increase the yield of their livestock. There is already a solution, but we need courage when we remove the politics inside and look at it as purely a developmental challenge. How do we manage our land sustainably for the benefit of the herders and the farmers? We can have this peace. It's not elusive. But when politicians find it conveniently to trigger conflict, to hold down the population of their states, so that they can easily get whatever political interest they are pursuing, we will not get results.
Okay, there's a lot to explore, but we're totally out of time. Engineer Saleh Al-Hassan, National Secretary Mieti Alakota Hore, the Pioneer Secretary of the National Unity Finders and former Secretary General of NYCN. We pray and hope that there will be peace and there will be a solution and everybody will be brutally honest. That's the conversation we'll continue to have. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
We're not done with that conversation. We're going to talk to a security expert this time and look at all sides as well from the security point of view. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us. We always hear of farmer herder crisis, and we sometimes don't see to talk to the herders themselves. I'm happy there's a representation in this sense. So we would try as much as possible to look at all the issues from all sides today. But let's begin with the one we saw on the headlines. For me, it's difficult to process that foreigners, foreign herders in this sense, are the ones coming into our country, places like Benue and Plateau, to kill people, grab their land, occupy perhaps foreigners. The key word here is foreigners. So I would like your take on this as far as that allusion by the DHQ is concerned.
Good morning, viewers. I think this narrative of foreign headers being thrown out anytime you have crisis, I don't know whose interest it is serving, because it's not even serving the interests of the innocent headers that have suffered over the years from attacks and counterattacks. So maybe the defense headquarters have more information. Since they're in charge of security, they can volunteer more information. But from our own perspective, this notion and narrative of foreign headers is a distraction, probably a continuation of a narrative of denying citizenship to the Nigerian headers. And we feel it's one of the challenges to finding peace in this country, particularly with respect to the herder-farmer conflict.
So let's explore what you just said, denying citizenship to the herders in Nigeria. Maybe you expand on that particular issue even further, so that we understand exactly what you're trying to say.
Yes, you have heard what this Fulani leader has got to say. So they are just trying to justify why they've been buying Nigerians. If you can remember during the time of autumn, when these people started invading Benue State, it got to a point where people were raising alarm. And guess what? Some of these leaders of the Fulani community, they came out to justify the buying of people. They said it's because their cattle were a kind of rustled and all that. Their cows were taken away from them, and then you just buy people anyhow. If you got your thing missing, is it not better for you to go to the security agencies and tell them, report the situation? You just take laws into your hand and begin to buy people. He's trying to defend the Fulani communities. Okay, somebody posted today, he said 11 people were buyed in Benue State, I think yesterday. And he was saying that this is happening at a time when people have been lamenting about buying. As in, what he was trying to say is that this thing is not stopping anytime soon. It's not stopping anytime soon. Now, this headline I want to read out says, foreign herders responsible for majority of buying in Nigeria. Foreign herders. This is coming from the defense headquarters. And this Fulani leader is saying, no, it's not foreign herders that are doing what they are doing. Now, let's take a look at some of the reactions coming from Nigerians. It's really so sad, that the security agencies do not even know where the problem is coming from. This Fulani leader is saying those by Nigerians are not foreigners. They are not foreigners. And he's saying that those people are the criminal element that left for them, Fulanis. They are not criminal elements. So we don't even know which one to follow. Anyway, let me take a look at some of the reactions here. And this one says, who are the foreign headers and who are the sponsors? Another person says, breaking, Nigeria's defense headquarters has attributed the majority of recent buying in Benue Plateau and other regions to foreign headers who have infiltrated the country through its porous borders. Major General Marcus Kainye, Director of Defense Media Operation. So these people can boldly tell us that Nigerians are as in foreigners are the ones invading Nigeria. So why do we have the military if they cannot secure our borders? Why do we have the military? And this other person said, so thousands you released as Boko Haram are from where? Another person said, foreign headers. Whose job is it to secure the borders? and the territorial integrity of the country, whose job it is. The military, they are still the ones telling us that it's foreigners. And this one says, so it's no longer nnamdi Kanu or Simon Ekpa, abi hypocrites. So guys, a whole lot, Nigerians are never getting what these politicians are doing. Honestly, you can't understand them enough. And this person say, how did these marauding, illiterate and senseless guy get to freely enter the country anyhow they like? The security architecture is really such a disaster. Meanwhile, politicians are busy looting our security budgets in order to impress their side chicks. This person has just finished us. And then another person say, nowhere the Nigerian Immigration Service. No way is the Nigerian. Okay, he says, so where is the Nigerian Immigration Service? And the other person said, this excuse is unacceptable. If they are foreigners, then it makes it easier, as in it makes it easier to deal with them if they are foreigners, because you just deny them visa and they can't enter the country. The excuse is unacceptable. If they are foreigners, then it makes it easier. Where are those foreigners coming from? Where are those foreigners coming from? That's the reaction from another person. So a whole lot is going on in Nigeria. I am going to be stopping this reaction here, but let me know your honest thoughts on all this. This one says, where are the foreigners coming from? If you secure your borders, will they enter your country? And another person says, so what should we do now? Anyway, this thing sounds childish. It's really so sad that we are here. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others. And drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you.